The Little Bodhisattva and Emperor Kangxi. Chapter 1, The Beginning of the Crossing, The Little Bodhisattva. On a foggy morning, under the sky, a woman dressed in plain clothes with a quiet smile walked out of the Buddhist hall. There is an innate indifference and calmness between her eyebrows, and there seems to be endless Buddha light flowing in her eyes. This woman's name is Shen Miajin. Born in an ordinary family, she has practiced Buddhism since she was a child, and her heart is clear, like an immortal outside the world. However, no one would have thought that this ordinary woman, because of a strange dream, would travel to the Kangxi dynasty of the Qing dynasty. When she woke up, she found herself standing in a gorgeous harem, and became the concubine of Tong Kuei, the uncle of the Principality of Qinzhen, Tong Miajin. At this time, she has a special identity. She is not only the little cousin of Emperor Kangxi, but also the only unpopular concubine in the harem. She doesn't crave power, she doesn't want to intrigue, and she doesn't like all this prosperous and luxurious life. Her wish is very simple, to stay away from the mortal world, live a pure life, and even be willing to spend the rest of her life in the Green Lantern Ancient Buddha and be a carefree nun. However, fate always seems to play tricks on people. As soon as she stepped into the harem, she was told that she must stay here and not leave the palace. Her indifferent attitude and cold personality also made the people in the palace awe of her. After seeing people's hearts for a long time, the people in the harem gradually called her a little bodhisattva. The little bodhisattva does not love people, but is full of kindness to all things. She is not interested in luxury, her clothes are simple, she acts low-key, and she often practices Buddhism and reads scriptures alone, far away from the prosperity of the palace. Her kindness and calmness made Emperor Kangxi interested in her. Chapter 2, Emperor Kangxi's Heart. Emperor Kangxi has always been an extremely intelligent and ambitious emperor. He is decisive in everything, and knows how to consolidate the Qing dynasty. However, in the face of the little bodhisattva, Tong Miajin, he was never able to solve the puzzle of his heart. Kangxi had seen countless beautiful women in the palace, but the little bodhisattva made him uneasy. She doesn't win by her beauty, nor does she come because of power, but like a leisurely lotus, people can't help but want to get closer, but they don't dare to touch it at will. Kangxi's feelings for her are complicated. He loved her purity and longed for her acceptance, but he knew he couldn't force her to change. She loved all things, but she was indifferent to him, the son of heaven, which made him extremely distressed. He tried many times to get close to the little bodhisattva, offering jewelry, delicacies, and even came to her dormitory in person to show her concern. However, every time, Tong Miajin's reaction was beyond his expectations. She always smiled indifferently, refused everything, and spoke briefly but politely. "Your Majesty, why do you have to embarrass yourself?" Tong Miajin once said softly, "I am indifferent to the world and indifferent to human feelings, only the Dharma and the state of mind are nothing but pure." Kangxi was shocked when he heard this, and he felt an indescribable loss in his heart. It's not that he doesn't know how to love, but the little bodhisattva's indifference to him makes him feel as if he is rejected from a tall building, untouchable. However, he did not give up. In the harem, he began to quietly observe all the movements of the little bodhisattva, looking for the gap in her heart, trying to pull her out of this cold world. Chapter 3, Bodhisattva Heart, Emperor Heart. The days passed like water, and Kangxi's mood became more and more troubled. Although he is the son of heaven, he has a heart for a concubine, and the struggle of this mood makes him extremely tormented. Whenever he saw the little bodhisattva sitting alone on a stone bench in the courtyard, quietly accompanied by the wind and the moonlight, his heart seemed to be gently pulled. On this day, Kangxi finally couldn't help it and came to the little bodhisattva's bedroom in person. "Little bodhisattva, why are you always so indifferent, and you don't seem to have any emotion for me in the world?" Kangxi couldn't help but ask, with a hint of eagerness in his tone. The little bodhisattva raised his eyes to look at him, and there was an indifferent look in his eyes that were as clear as water. She did not evade, nor did she get excited, but calmly replied, "Your Majesty, you are born with a dragon and are extremely noble, and I am just an insignificant dust. If you have the opportunity to practice Buddhism in this life, you are willing to spend it in a cool world without desires, without worries." Emperor Kangxi looked at her eyes as clear as water, and an inexplicable emotion surged in his heart. He understood that the little bodhisattva did not dislike him, but that the dedication to cultivation in her heart far exceeded the desire for worldly fame and fortune. Her world is different from his. "But I can't get out of your world," Kangxi whispered, a hint of pain in his tone. The little bodhisattva smiled indifferently and replied, "Your Majesty, you don't need to worry about me. The only thing I love in my heart is the Dharma, the only thing that is pure. If you really care about me, please do more for the people of the world and make this world more peaceful." These words shocked Emperor Kangxi's heart. He looked at the little bodhisattva, and suddenly had an unprecedented understanding. Her indifference and state of mind are not indifference, but a kind of wisdom that transcends the world. She is not dismissive of him, but has a deeper understanding of the world. Emperor Kangxi's heart moved, he decided to let go of his desires, change himself, and do more for the people of the world, but also for her, for this woman as pure as a bodhisattva. Chapter 4, The Bodhisattva Heart, eventually becoming the Emperor's heart. With the passage of time, Emperor Kangxi no longer forced the feelings of the little bodhisattva, but began to pay more attention to state affairs and strive to fulfill his promises to the people. The little bodhisattva is no longer so cold, occasionally smiling in front of Kangxi and making some suggestions to make the country more stable. The relationship between them has gradually become harmonious from the initial confusion and contradictions. Emperor Kangxi felt her wisdom and depth, and finally understood why she chose Buddhism instead of love. He began to live for himself and for her, and no longer saw her indifference as a rejection, but as a detachment from the glitz and glamour of the world. In the end, Emperor Kangxi made a decision. He no longer forced the little bodhisattva to love him, but supported her to choose the life she wanted. Perhaps this love does not need to be reciprocated, only respect and understanding can become the most beautiful emotion. Chapter 5, A Change of Mood. As the days passed, Emperor Kangxi was no longer the monarch who only relied on power and desire to promote. He gradually learned humility and patience, especially when dealing with the little bodhisattva. He understands that love is not a taking, but respect and unconditional understanding. His state of mind has changed invisibly, and he is no longer anxious for quick success, but more concerned about the long-term prosperity of the country and the well-being of the people. For him, the little bodhisattva is not only a concubine in the harem, but also a mentor in his heart, an existence that allows him to touch the depths of his heart. Although she still maintained her indifference, Emperor Kangxi was able to see more wisdom and peace in her eyes. Every time he spoke to her, he felt a sense of peace in his heart that he had never felt before. However, this stability did not come from the little bodhisattva's response to his emotions, but from her wordless influence. She is like a lighthouse, lighting up hope and light in the heart of Emperor Kangxi. Emperor Kangxi knew that he might not be able to pull her into his own world completely, but he was willing to keep a piece of peace and freedom for her. Little bodhisattva, you have heaven and earth in your eyes, why does it always feel so far away? One day, Emperor Kangxi came to the little bodhisattva's bedroom again and sat opposite her, his eyes gentle. The little bodhisattva was still sitting in the quiet courtyard, the sun shining through the shadows of the trees, and her face was still with that indifferent smile. She replied softly, Your Majesty, everything in this world is a floating cloud, whether it is a mountain or a human heart, it is all passing clouds. If you don't get trapped by this, that's the best way to practice. Kangxi was silent for a long time after hearing this, and these words were like a basin of cold water, extinguishing a certain restlessness in his heart. But he knew that this was the wisdom of the little bodhisattva. She saw through the illusion of the world, but still had good intentions, which was beyond Kangxi's reach. If you can let go of everything, there will be no obstacle in your heart. The little bodhisattva added lightly, with a hint of shame in his tone. Emperor Kangxi nodded slightly, his heart was empty, and he seemed to have suddenly understood something. Chapter 6, Conspiracy and Challenge. However, not everyone can let go of those worldly ties like Emperor Kangxi. In the palace, the struggle for power is still in full swing. The little bodhisattva's calmness and dusty temperament gave her a very high prestige in the palace. She is not only a touch of freshness in Emperor Kangxi's heart, but also a thorn in the side of those who struggle with the forces in the palace. One day, news came from the palace that a palace maid inadvertently revealed that a concubine in the harem was secretly contacting foreign ministers and plotting against her. This news caused a shock in the harem, and it also made Emperor Kangxi have to turn his attention to this latent conspiracy. The purity and Buddha's heart of the little bodhisattva made her reluctant to get involved in the power struggle in the palace, but she also understood that if she did not take action, the safety of the entire harem and even the entire country could be threatened. Your Majesty, do you think that if you can really let go of the struggle for power, will the world be more peaceful? After learning of these conspiracies, the little bodhisattva did not panic too much, but calmly put forward her opinion. Emperor Kangxi looked up at her with a hint of confusion in his eyes. Let go of the fight? So, how can I protect my country? If we don't confront those powerful ministers, how can this country be stable? The little bodhisattva shook his head lightly and smiled slightly. The country is stable, and there must be more wisdom, not just confrontation and strife. If you can transform people with morality, you can be convinced by them, and this is the real long-term peace and stability of the country. These words made Emperor Kangxi fall into deep thought. Every time he heard the words of the little bodhisattva, he could feel a deep power, which made him re-examine his concept of governance, and made him feel that there were still many untouched areas. However, the intrigue in the harem did not stop, but became more and more rampant. While Emperor Kangxi had to deal with it, he was always concerned about the safety of the little bodhisattva in his heart. He knew that in the end, this struggle for power could not escape the tricks of fate. Chapter 7, The Final Choice. As time passed, Emperor Kangxi gradually felt peace and contentment. He is no longer obsessed with whether the little bodhisattva will love him, and he is no longer anxious about those power struggles. Instead, he focused more on how to make himself a better monarch and how to bring true peace to the people. The little Bodhisattva finally changed a little, although she still maintained a spiritual mentality, she began to care more about the affairs of the palace. Her communication with Emperor Kangxi has become more and more frequent, and the tacit understanding between them has gone beyond the simple relationship between monarchs and ministers, and has become a spiritual resonance. Your Majesty, if everything will change one day, then why not take this change as a kind of nature? One day, the little Bodhisattva, as usual, walked with Emperor Kangxi in the quiet garden of the palace. Her tone was calm, but there was a hint of helplessness in her eyes. After Emperor Kangxi heard this, his heart was shocked. Perhaps, this is the true meaning of what he pursues, to accept impermanence, learn to be flexible, and let the country and the people find the most stable foundation in the midst of change. At this moment, Emperor Kangxi finally understood that there was no need to force everything to be as he wanted. Peace of mind is the ultimate goal, whether it is for the country, or for oneself, or even for the little Bodhisattva. The outcome of this relationship does not depend on loving and being loved, but on respect and understanding. Emperor Kangxi learned true love from the little Bodhisattva, unselfish love, not for himself, for the peace and tranquility of the whole world. Epilogue. In the end, Emperor Kangxi and the little Bodhisattva did not become husband and wife, nor did they have too many emotional entanglements. The relationship between them has always maintained a clear and deep distance. The little Bodhisattva continued her practice, and the Kangxi Emperor continued his career in the Qing dynasty. They each walked on their own paths, but left a permanent space in each other's hearts, which is a self-evident understanding and respect. This peculiar friendship between monarchs and ministers eventually became one of the most beautiful chapters in the history of the Qing dynasty, and no matter how time passed, it still left a deep imprint in the hearts of the world.